When I think of sneaker collaborations, you think of two partners really coming together to make something new. In the situation with Adidas, they've done tons of collabs over the years. Some of them worked and some of them haven't, but I have like 5 that really kind of make up as my favorite. But if we're really going to go back, you have to talk about this shoe. This is the Adidas Superstar, and technically the first collab that happened with this shoe was not even really a collab. It was just a rap group making a song called My Adidas. So if I have to go with a very first collab that I remember, that's gonna be the first collab that I remember, Run DMC and Adidas. Hey, this video is brought to you by FARFETCH. Use the code JacquesYT10 for 10% off of your order, and make sure you stay tuned for more. When I think of longtime collaborators with Adidas, there are a few that are there, but one that really sticks out to me is Stella McCartney. So this is her Stan Smith, and oftentimes you don't hear a lot of hype about Stella McCartney collabs. You see them, they talk about them on the blogs and stuff like that. But for me, it's something that shows like a long-term relationship with Adidas. And really, that's what partnerships should be about, the long-term relationships, not just something, you don't want your collaboration just to be a flash in the pan. This relationship is something real and it's something authentic. For this one, for instance, she's working with the Stan Smith, obviously a classic Adidas silhouette, but you have the addition of the colored laces here. You have her picture there on the tongue, and then you have the Stella McCartney there on the back, and then you have the Adidas 3-striped logo right there. With the addition of the flavor and the style that Stella McCartney is able to bring to the table, you get something like this Stan Smith, a very classic sneaker, and make it something that stands apart from the original Stan Smith. Not just a color of it, but a design changes with the stars, and then the addition of the laces, the addition of the rainbow on the heel. It's just those small things add to the package and make it something totally different. And really, that's what a collaboration is all about. The hype that happens over collabs is really interesting. It's almost like the public wants to see outside input into what the brand is already saying in order to make it authentic to what the brand is doing. It's as if the public or the consumer sees what the brand is doing as part of like the corporate machine, where that is always going to happen. Of course they're going to say this, of course they're going to do this, of course they're going to make that. But when you have an outside entity come in, even if it's on the same exact silhouette, just interpreted a different way, people find that a little bit more authentic because it's a third party coming in to say this is cool, or to say this is how this should look. One of the most interesting collabs that has happened with Adidas in the last couple of years is their collaboration with Prada. So this is the Luna Rossa collaboration with Adidas and Prada. It's taking a traditional Prada shoe and converting it to an Adidas style shoe. Now that's something that you don't normally see when it comes to footwear brands, and I'm really excited that Adidas is doing it, and there are a couple of reasons. For one, it's good to see Adidas, I would say a streetwear sort of athletic brand, linking up with a luxury brand. I feel like the world between those two has gotten smaller and smaller, and that line has gotten a little blurrier. And to see an official collab like this, you see those two worlds coming together in a way that feels authentic to both of them. I think that's unique, and I think that is going to bear more fruit in the future, that the consumer of the high-end luxury sneaker and the consumer of the athletic sneaker, that those two worlds are going to start coming closer and closer together, and that line is going to continually to get blurred, and you have something unique like the Luna Rossa that people like me will look at a second time and be like, oh yeah, I think I will rock that. So if you were to ask me what's the one sport that I regret not doing more when I was a kid, it would be skateboarding. I am just fascinated with the world of skate. I can only do an ollie. That's about as good as it gets when it comes to a trick coming from me. A backside fakie, I don't even know what that means or how to do it, but I love seeing people do those tricks. So when I was thinking about the ones that really stand out, the collaboration with Palace definitely stood out. Now, this is the Adidas Palace Pro. It's a skate shoe. And the reason why I like this is because this is an example of Palace staying true to who they are. Palace does like some wild designs and they do some crazy stuff when it comes to apparel, but generally for their footwear, it's generally tame because it's mostly focused on the skate shoe. And that's really, there's a very specific aesthetic when it comes to skate shoes. And I feel like with the Palace Pro, with this collaboration, they've stayed true to who they are. And to me, that's valuable. They know who they are, they know what they represent. And when they started to work with Adidas, they kept that same sort of identity to who they are with their collaborations. And so when I see stuff like this, it doesn't scream Adidas, it doesn't scream Palace, but when you find out that it's a collaboration between the two, it makes sense. It shouldn't make you go, huh? Like that, who did that? That's what? I want to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, FARFETCH. FARFETCH has been a sponsor of this channel since 2020 and going into 2021, which I definitely appreciate. But more than that, I think they actually offer a service that we as sneakerheads can really use. There's three things about them that I think really separate them from the rest. One, authenticity. Anything that you get from FARFETCH, whether it's sneakers, a hoodie, a shirt, fashion, luxury, whatever it is, it's going to be authentic. The second thing is that they have a 14-day no stress return policy, especially when it comes to sneakers. A lot of times we buy sneakers, we want to see what they look like with our outfit or if they match what we already have in our closet. And if you don't want it, you have 14 days to return the sneakers, no questions asked. And then the third thing that I really appreciate is that they give a discount to you guys every time they sponsor a video here on this channel. So with that being said, if you use the code Jacques YT10, you'll get 10% off of your purchase on FARFETCH. So again, there's three things: authenticity, 14-day return policy, and then you get a discount when they sponsor videos here on this channel. So make sure you use the code Jacques YT10 for 10% off of your FARFETCH order. I'll put all of that information down in the description below. Let's get back to the video. So I think my opinion on the next Adidas collab, I think, is going to raise a few eyebrows. As someone that's a part of the sneaker culture, one of the biggest names in the world of sneakers, obviously, is Kanye West. And when Kanye went over to Adidas, he's done some amazing, amazing sneakers. People, they're selling out, they're reselling for tons of money if that's what you're into. And he often changes the dialogue of what a sneaker should or should not look like. He's introduced a new way of looking at your sneakers and envisioning your sneakers. And that trend has kind of continued on, but there are a few of the collaborations that he's done that I think stick out and really set a tone of their own. And they've quickly become my favorite of the things that he's done. And for me, that is this shoe, the Adidas Yeezy 700. Now, this shoe has Boost, obviously, which is a big deal for those that follow Boost. And it really feels different for Kanye. A lot of the collaborations that Kanye has done with Adidas oftentimes feel very similar. It's a color change, an elongation, the addition of a stripe. But with this one, it felt like something that was totally outside of the box of what we would expect from Kanye. It gave it a different flavor, gave it a different style, and it showed a different part of Kanye's mind or a different part of the Yeezy brand than what we became to expect. There was always a very like avant-garde, fashion forward, where this one feels more like the common man's sneaker, if that makes sense. This felt basic in a sense, but it had Kanye's obviously flourishes on it with the colors and the lines and the way that the shoe is shaped. All are reminiscent of Kanye, but it didn't feel like the full-on Kanye experience. It gave the world a taste of Kanye in a way that was more palatable, in my opinion, and that's why I liked it the most. The other ones, obviously, they carved their own lane and they did their own thing. And I think the average person would probably pick this one up versus picking up some of the other stuff that Kanye has done. I think a person could see this in the store and be like, oh, okay, I like that shoe. And then find out it has something to do with Kanye. And then, you know, it kind of leads into that story versus seeing a 350 sitting on the shelf. I think people are less inclined to pick those up just because they have such a distinct look. These aren't as distinct as those, but they still fit their own bill and carve their own lane. And I'm really happy this is something that Kanye decided to do just because it presents him in a different way, in a different light. And this is why it's my favorite one of his Adidas collabs. Are collabs overdone? That's another good question. I do think there is a limit on how many collabs can be made. There should be a limit on how many collabs should be made, but on one hand, I want to say yes, there's too many collabs out there, but I also like the idea of just creating for the sake of creating and using that as basically a jumping board for another idea. So as much as it does seem to get frustrating that there's a new collab coming out this week, a new collab coming out that week, seeing all of those come out and seeing what those mean and how those are interpreted often leads to other ideas that wouldn't necessarily have happened if that collab didn't happen. So yes and no. Yes, there's too many collabs, and no, there's not too many collabs because they always generate ideas and keep people's minds going. I don't want to call it the best. I would say my favorite. When I think of my favorite collaboration with Adidas, it has to be the stuff that Pharrell is doing. If you've watched my channel at all, you've seen plenty of the content of me talking about Pharrell and talking about what he's done with Adidas and the Hue NMD. And this Hue NMD in particular, really is the epitome of that relationship. For a lot of people that know Pharrell, they know him because of that song Happy, and that's how they associate Pharrell to that song Happy. But if you know a little bit about Pharrell's backstory, you know that he was in a band called NERD, or Nerd. And that's what this Hue NMD represents, Nerd. So it has Nerd here. It has their brain/light bulb logo there on the back. You have the Prime Knit here on the upper. It's a regular Hue NMD by all accounts and measures, but then you have the outsole. And this outsole is really what helps tie all of this shoe in particular together. So if you follow Pharrell, you know that he's really into like the mind, the body, the spirit. Those are all important things to him. Those are all things that are part of his work. They're part of the way that his creative energy flows. If you've followed him for a while, you've probably heard him talk about the energy of the universe. And so when I think about that, and I think about that perspective that Pharrell gives, this shoe gives off that energy. This outsole isn't the traditional outsole for the Hue NMD. This is the trail outsole. And in continuing with the way that Pharrell thinks, the mind, body, and soul, that ties in to the earth, the wind, the moon, the stars, everything that happens on this planet is part of the quote unquote universe when it comes to Pharrell. And he's tying all of those things together on this one single silhouette. Now, he's done a bunch of Hue NMDs that talk about humanity and all of that stuff. But for this one, it's the connection to his past life as a part of NERD and his future life as a part of Adidas. It has the mind, body, and soul chart on the insole. All of those things kind of tied together really make this shoe easily my favorite collaboration that he's done with Adidas, and possibly my most favorite Adidas collaboration overall. It represents everything that Pharrell is and everything that Adidas is all in one package. And I don't think you can get a collaboration that hits all of those and checks all of those boxes without using this as a really perfect example. When I think about those collaborations with Adidas, they all represent different things, but they all stay true to who they are. Different ideas coming together to create collabs on their own, but the one thorough line I think between all of them is being authentic to who you are and not letting anything change how your perspective is on the world or how your perspective is on design. And that's commendable. And that's why these 5 represent the bar when it comes to collaborations with the brand.